All right. Good afternoon, YouTube. Told you that my New Year's resolution this year was to put out a lot more content. And so this one I'm shooting from my house. I am going to go pick up my kids from school pretty soon. I tried to shoot one a few minutes ago, but it said that the video quality was screwed up. So I had to go and fix that. I am using a software system called Open Broadcast System, OBS, which enables me to share my screen with you. The only downside to it is that there is a little bit of a delay in what I see and what I'm showing you guys. So here's the deal. So bear with me on that, by the way. So here's the deal. The most valuable skill that you can develop in 2019, it's not your education, it's not your hard work ethic, it's not your expertise. Those are all great. It's your ability to sell. It's your ability to influence and persuade other people, because you could have all those things, but if you can't sell them to other people, if you can't get other people to buy into that stuff, whether it's through the exchange of money, through the exchange of attention, through resources, opportunities. Bottom line is, like, you could have all those great attributes, but if you can't effectively get other people to buy into them, then you are doing a great disservice to yourself. So my goal, after helping over 10,000 people, is to help 10,000 more this year alone. And so the first thing that I want to start out with talking to you about this month is this concept of authority. If you've seen any of my videos before, you know that I talk a lot about authority. And the reason I talk about authority is because I kind of look at it as the lowest hanging fruit. It's like it's the place to start, because when you have authority, persuasion just becomes much easier, because we are hardwired and trained as a species to obey, respect, and comply with authority figures, right? I give the example all the time of the doctor. You go to the doctor, you don't feel good. The guy makes you wait 2 hours to see him, and then he finally sees you, writes you a script, you go and you get it filled, right? You don't question what they told you. You don't get mad that they made you wait. You're just kind of happy that you finally got to see them and they found out what was wrong with you. Why? Because the doctor is an authority. If you were going through a separation and you happen to be at your friend's house, there are a bunch of people over, and you find out that his friend Timmy is a divorce lawyer, what's going to happen? Before you even talk to this guy, you've already put him on a pedestal as somebody that's got specialized knowledge on something that you need access to specialized knowledge on, right? So this concept of authority is very powerful. If we look at some of the world's biggest influencers, look at Tony Robbins. The stuff that Tony Robbins teaches has been around for 100 years. What is it that makes people listen to Tony more? Why does Tony have the biggest reach? Why does he have the biggest fan base? Why? It's because he has the most amount of authority. You look at Grant Cardone, a guy teaches real estate investing. The concepts and the principles involved in real estate investing have never changed. They may change based on the way the market is, but overall they stay the same. The guy's got the #1 sales training system in the world. Sales training, as far as I know, as far as somebody that's been in sales my entire life, sales principles have never changed. They remain the same since the dawn of time. So why does Grant Cardone have the #1 sales training system in the world? It's because he has more authority than everybody else, okay? So when you have authority, the bottom line is that influence and persuasion, they become a lot easier. So that's why this month, I want to spend the entire month showing you how you can create authority. Some of the different things that you can do. I'll put a link to what I'm going to go over today in the description. I'm going to give you a free copy of the credibility checklist. So one of the first components in creating authority is to actually have credibility, which is what I'm going to go over today, how to develop credibility, and I'll put a link to get the credibility checklist in the comments below. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to try to attempt to switch my screen over so that I can show you exactly what I'm talking about here. So, we talk about credibility. What is it and why is it important? Right? Why do you want to develop credibility? You want to develop credibility because without it, people aren't going to trust you. They're not going to take you seriously as an authority. So now what I want to go over with you today is how credibility works, different traits that you can develop that make you credible in general, and then how to make yourself credible depending on the type of person that you're talking to, like what they value and what they see as credible when you are communicating with them. This is all taken from my course, The Authority Code. I'll put a link to that in there as well if you want to learn more about that. So let's get right into this. So, in order to be seen as an authority figure, you have to convey a sense of credibility. In order to understand what true credibility is, it helps to understand the connection in three major areas. And those three major areas are persuasion versus influence, compliance versus conversion, and the impact of credibility on influence. So a lot of people think that persuasion and influence are the same thing, but persuasion is really a component within the sphere of influence. So with persuasion, you use a set of strategies or techniques to get someone to do something that you want them to do. But influence goes much deeper. Influence is the state of your identity and persona. It's the presence you display to your customers, clients, or audience. Once you have influence, you gain conversion versus compliance more easily. So, influence is, I want you to think of it like this, like influence is your overall strategy, right? It's the overarching strategy. Persuasion is just a component within influence, if that makes sense. So, next, let's talk about the difference between compliance and conversion. Both are very valuable, but when an individual complies with something that you've persuaded them to do, sometimes they perform that act because of things like social norms or rewards. But deep down, you may not have impacted their beliefs. So, for example, maybe you get someone to do something, but maybe they did it because they saw that everybody else was doing it. Or maybe at the time it just seemed like the right thing to do. Or maybe they did it because they didn't want to get fired. Or maybe they did it because they thought they were going to get a raise. Or maybe for a brief moment in time, they thought that that decision was somehow going to miraculously change their life. Right? So you got them to comply with you. Conversion is much deeper. Because with conversion, your persona and influence has helped someone to buy into the message that you offer. So now you become a symbol, a role model for what that person wants to become. He or she may change their belief system to align with yours, and that's super powerful. Because now you can get them to buy into your message over and over and over again, regardless of whatever it is that you're talking about. Once you have influence, you can gain compliance and conversion because of your past achievements or simply because of who you are. There are many factors that create a persona of influence, and credibility is one of the main pillars. Someone who's perceived as credible is seen by others as a leader. This person is trustworthy, smart, and knowledgeable. They're seen as extremely capable and experienced. So, for example, Oprah Winfrey and Tony Robbins, both influencers who have an immense credibility with their audience. Thousands of companies send products to Oprah every year in the hope that she'll give them a stamp of approval. Hundreds of people attend Tony's workshops every year because he's helped many people move forward and attain goals they thought were impossible. Reputation is an extremely powerful factor in whether you'll be able to create a persona of influence and credibility. If you get a reputation for using strategies to manipulate people into doing things that won't benefit them, eventually you're going to gain a bad reputation, which is going to precede you to the point that you won't be capable of influencing anybody. So it's important to realize that influence isn't always good, right? There have been leaders who have had evil intentions and have been able to get others to do their evil work for them. So one thing I want you to understand is that persuasion and manipulation are essentially the same thing. Everything that's involved in persuasion is involved in manipulation. The only difference between the two is the intention behind the end user. So if your goal is to create win-win situations, if your goal is to change somebody's mind, to actually help them and provide something that you know can positively impact their life, that's persuasion. If you're doing everything that you're doing just so that you can get a benefit from the person, so you can get whatever you want from that person with absolutely no regard of how it's going to impact them, we call that manipulation. But the process behind the both of them is exactly the same. All right? So, what are the 6 factors that make up your credibility? So, they are your competence, your likability, your trustworthiness, your expertise, your composure, and your social ability. And like I said, I'll put these all in the link below. I'll give you a link to the credibility cheat sheet or the credibility checklist. So number 1 is your competence. So to become a master influencer, you got to not only be competent, but you have to be perceived by your audience as competent. We've all known those people that have an amazing depth of knowledge, but they can't convey their masterful knowledge to others. Your competency level and your ability to communicate your overall competency must be congruent. Next is your likability and your trustworthiness. So we all want to do business with people or have connections with people that we find likable. Likability and trustworthiness go hand in hand. We usually don't trust people that we don't like, right? They go hand in hand. Can you walk the walk and talk the talk? People want to believe that you've encountered difficulties and found a way to persevere. Keeping your word and following through on goals despite obstacles are factors in your personal trustworthiness. Having honesty and ethics and being able to demonstrate to others that you do will be factors as well in building your trustworthiness. When listening to presentations, your audience is going to be thinking of objections. If you address these objections even before you're asked, it will build your level of credibility as well. This is a big one. If you're going to take anything away from this, take this one away. Everybody's got objections and everybody's got resistance. Resistance is a natural, normal part of the persuasion process. See, anytime you ask somebody, anytime you try to influence, persuade, sell, pitch, convince somebody to do something, you're going to encounter, I should say, resistance, right? Because persuasion involves change. If it didn't involve change, you wouldn't have to persuade them. They would just say yes. And people don't like change. The human mind is hardwired to resist change. We don't like things that are different. We don't like breaking our normal routines. We for damn sure don't like the unknown. And so you're going to encounter resistance when you try to influence and persuade other people. Well, part of that resistance is going to manifest in the form of objections. Reasons why people think that they shouldn't say yes to what you're asking them to do. If you can bring those objections to the surface and overcome them before the other person even has an opportunity to mention them, you gain a lot of credibility. We do this in sales copy all the time. When I write a sales letter, I sit down and I think of the 100 different reasons a person could say no to this thing. And then I label them or I list them all in the copy. And I say, now I know what you're thinking. You might be thinking that this isn't for you because it won't work because you need to have leadership ability in order to make this work. Or I might say something like, some people think that this won't work for them because it's too time consuming. Well, the good news is I can show you how to execute this system in as little as 3 minutes a day, right? So if time is the issue, I overcome that objection before the person even brings it up. In a sales letter, actually, they don't have the opportunity to bring it up, which is why you have to list it in the sales copy. But in something interactive like this, or in something interactive like a webinar, when I used to do webinars, I would start out the webinar by using the objections. I would position them as frequently asked questions. So I would say, you know, before we get into this, a lot of people have these questions about the system. So a lot of people will say to me, Paul, the system sounds great, but I just don't think I'm going to have the time to implement it. Well, the good news is I can show you how to implement this, excuse me, in as little as 2 minutes a day. So what I've done there is I've overcame the objection before the person even has a chance to present it to me. So anytime you can do that, you gain huge amounts of credibility. Moving on, the 6 factors that will help you attain your credibility. So first is your expertise, right? Your formal education is only one way to develop this aspect of your persona. Your life and business experience also have an impact. Writing and publishing in your field and continuing your education are other ways. And in the end, results trump everything. Next is your composure. Grace under pressure is important. How you handle hostile subjects, audience members, customers can make or break your credibility. Humor used carefully can help others to open their minds, even if they don't initially agree with you. Your likability. So we all want to do business with or have connections with people that we find likable. Likability and trustworthiness go hand in hand. We usually don't trust people that we don't like. And trustworthiness, like I said, can you walk the walk and talk the talk? People want to believe that you've encountered difficulty, found a way to persevere. Keeping your word and following through on goals despite obstacles are factors in your personal trustworthiness. So, next is your social ability. Emotional intelligence and social ability are very important to credibility. If you understand your target subjects because you've researched and done your homework, you're more likely to be able to create win-win situations that will solve their burning issues and benefit you as well. If you're a good listener and can read body language, you're well on your way to becoming a master in social situations. So the key part of this whole thing is that you got to be able to speak the same language as the other person. Next is how, what I want to talk to you about is how people make decisions in different ways and how that impacts whether or not, sorry guys, I'm having a bad connection here. Not really sure why the connection is breaking down on me so much. But I will try to continue. So, people make different decisions in different ways, right? So we have thinkers and skeptics. Information and data are very important to thinkers because they analyze things and they pull them apart before making decisions. So studies, analysis, research, and survey results are going to provide what the thinker needs to feel you are a credible source. Thinkers value logical arguments that flow from step to step. You need to be able to explain how you got to this part of your presentation in a logical, systematic way. If your answer isn't sufficient, you'll lose credibility in their eyes. Skeptics can be extremists. They either trust you and take you into their inner circle, or they decide you're not worthy and they cast you out. With the skeptic, it's important to establish credibility as quickly as possible. An endorsement from someone the skeptic views as credible will make things smoother as you approach the independent-minded skeptic, since they're not fond of authority. Next are followers and leaders. Followers tend to avoid new solutions. They generally make decisions on what's worked before. The only way that a follower will make a change to get out of their comfort zone is to see proof that a large number of people have succeeded by following the same process or making the same change. So supply strong proof that something works and you'll be credible with a follower. Leaders are perfectionists and want to be in control, so your best course of action to have influence is to give them all the information that they need to make a decision and supply them promptly with everything that they request, so they can take ownership over the idea and they influence themselves to take actions. Never rush a leader. They'll become defensive and resistant even if you are perceived as a credible authority. And last are enthusiasts. Enthusiasts are very interactive people with little tolerance for the boring or mundane. So you can't give a long, drawn-out presentation with tons of logical facts to the enthusiast. Instead, you got to flip your presentation on its head, begin with the exciting concept and then decision makers, and how to make yourself appear as credible to those people. I think that's a game changer. If you can figure out what type of a thinker somebody else is and present your information in a way that's conducive to their thought process, you're going to get much better results. If you enjoyed this video, leave me a comment. Let me know. Let me know if you want me to do more videos like this. Give it a share. Give it a thumbs up. And hopefully, if I can get a better stream going tomorrow, I'll see you guys tomorrow.